Well, Hafiz, we're back to do the book club again, and now we are at chapter 3, which is about alternatives to punishment. How do you like that?
Yeah, it's very interesting. This third chapter talks about something that close to the heart of many parents. I'm sure we are always caught up in this situation where we have to respond with a certain kind of punishment or action that we try to in order for bad behavior or for behavior that we don't agree, of our children. Before this, you talk about helping children deal with their feelings, from the book, and then engaging cooperation. But now it's a reality, right? So once they do things which we're not happy about, what do we do? And what maybe Parkson, let's share. What does the book says about this idea of the use of punishment in
Well,
parenting?
I think a good place to start is to help parents understand that discipline does not equal to punishment. When you ask parents, how do you discipline your children? Immediately they think punishment. So either they spank, they cane, or they use the timeout, use whatever methods. There are some standard methods, and then of course there's this thing about shouting and lecturing and withholding certain privileges, and things like that. So discipline does not equal to punishment. So I think that's what parents firstly need to understand. The word discipline actually it comes from a Latin word which means to teach or to give instructions. Punishment is punitive. Punishment basically, what it accomplishes. Although parents would say that my intention was to teach the child a lesson, right? What he just did was wrong, and what he should do is something else. Now, what many studies have found is actually it does not accomplish that most of the time. It does not actually teach the child the new behavior. It basically, number one, it makes the child sad and then also fearful. All right. And, goes to the room and basically thinks about, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to beat him up. All right. For example, his son, when thinking about his father, when I grow up and I'm bigger than him, he better watch out and things like that. So, yeah, punishment does not accomplish the goal that most parents think that it does accomplish. So I just thought I need to get that straight first.
Yeah, so it's interesting that the definition of discipline, which is always what definitely parents want to achieve from reacting to certain or responding to certain behaviors that we do not like our children to do, and with that, it's about educating, right? And education takes time. Okay.
It's a process. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a process, right? And therefore it is not as simple as you use the stick, or you use you make a certain action, and the response, although it's immediate, can be favorable. That means he do or they do what you ask him to do, but it may not be sustainable. In fact, it can be counterproductive, right? Because, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if you tell a person not to do something, okay, yeah, now they don't do it, but the next time, that's the very thing that you ask them not to do, they do. And that is always the reaction that we get from children.
Mm.
They just like, or they just do the opposite of what we expect them to do. And also sometimes they like the attention, can never know. uh, something is lacking, by doing this I get the attention of my dad, and yeah, do it
That's very
again.
true, That's
Yeah.
very true, by the way. Yeah, because that's the only time the parents actually talk to the child. When the parents is scolding the child or correcting the child, and so it becomes habit forming. And so the child thinks that the only time my parents will ever talk to me is when I do something wrong. So I better do some. I might as well do something wrong so that they get I can get their attention.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing. The problem with punishment is that it distracts from the whole idea of educating. Okay.
Oh yes,
Because
definitely.
it's, I mean, the reaction becomes something that the child doesn't like. All right. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, they do not do what you expect them to do. And this is something that it seems to be always, make parents confused, right? I mean, I thought this will work, and I thought for once he did what I asked him to do, but then repeatedly they repeat the same action or behavior that we do not want them to do, right? And
That's
that
right.
itself is
Mm.
frustrating, and if it doesn't, it may work once, it doesn't work, but at the same time it is not sustainable, and it becomes a dead end for parents. So what does the book suggest? I mean, in alternative to punishments.
Well,
Yeah.
there are a few things they
Yeah.
suggested, or not suggested, they're actually recommending. Because
Mm,
remember, this book is written by two experts, so it's not just a suggestion. They're saying, try this. For example, it says point out a way to be helpful. Okay, so like we've been talking about is educating them. Is giving them clear instructions to follow. All right. Yes, you can point out to them, what you just did, it's not it's not acceptable. All right, it's not helpful, and therefore, do try it different way, do it a different way. So you can point out, what is the way that he or she, their child, should do instead of what he used to do. So that's one. I mean, and the second thing they say is, well, you can express strong disapproval. Okay, so parents can do that through many many ways. Okay, you can give the children that kind of look. When the children do something wrong, you just give them a certain look, a certain stare. And if you do it long enough, the children understand what that means. Okay, or it could be just a sign, a signal, clearing your throat. All right, or just say, hey, 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 watch it. Okay, so express your disapproval of their behavior, but not attacking their character. New Entity is a branding company. They are the ones helping to create a brand for WADT and digital media for all our social media platforms. We will not hesitate to recommend New Entity to anyone, whether you are running a business or a nonprofit or starting a blog or podcast just like us. Its founder, Firdaus Amza, was on our podcast a few weeks back, and here's what he said about business and branding.
I like to compare it to business. It's as if it's two sides of the same coin. Business and branding. You grow your business, you grow your brand at the same time. If you neglect your brand, your business will grow, but you have the flip side, which is not taken care of, and people will see it, and you are going to lose a lot of opportunity because you're not able to make the connection.
That means don't label your child, calling them things like lazy or stubborn or violent, things like that. Because when you label a child, or for that matter anyone, the label tends to stick. And the person begins to behave, all right, according to that label.
Yeah. Yeah. From this, for example, helping, right, itself encourages the child to sort of experience something. Okay. Like experience the consequence of their behavior instead of punishment. So the focus in what is the right thing to do, rather than you do the wrong thing and you get punished for it, and
Mm.
you feel bad about it, and that cycle will continue. Since I feel bad, I become revengeful, and I hate you as a
Yeah,
as a parent.
that's
That's what
right.
we do not want, right? So that cycle definitely, certainly, I mean, we want our children to love us. We love our children, and in the moment of anger, in the moment of trying to correct things, when we focus on punishing, all right, it may turn back on us. It's a double-edged sword. It may work for the short term, but in the long term, it may not work, and it becomes a problem by itself. Because if you talk about punishment, there are many kind of punishment. You mentioned just now, maybe physical punishment, and physical punishment can also be can come back to us as a parent. either they commit the same physical violence over us, if they are, as you said, strong enough to fight back, or
Mm-hmm.
to other people. And the signal, or we are trying to tell them, is that no, it is okay to beat, and it's not like us, we, I'm a father, or you're a child. I can have practice physical punishment over you, but you cannot do it on others. Children, they do not think like that. They don't see it
Mm.
the way we see it. And in fact, it will be more like hypocritical, right, for us to tell our children not to do physical violence, but we do on our children. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yes.
Yeah. And some
Yeah,
children
we tell
realize
them
it,
not
right?
to beat others. Yeah, and yet we're beating them.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe for our generation, we are so used to it. Our parents may not have that capability to express themselves or be educated as much as today, be exposed to many, many campaigns, many awareness, and so on. And we tend to do the same thing to our children who are more exposed today. And today, even in schools, many schools do not allow physical punishment. Even they do, only the principal can do it. And it's a very
Mm.
controlled, and they're very, very careful to ensure that it is done in that state where the child knows. Okay, it is not solely a punishment; it's part of educating. I mean,
Mm.
I remember, we have this CWO, right, corrective work order.
Ah,
Remember, you throw litter, and then
yeah.
you're
And
given
you
that
wear
vest,
that luminous vest and you go
yeah,
around with a
yeah,
black trash bag.
the idea is punitive. Yes, you're supposed to be ashamed in public, but I suppose it may not work. Apparently, I remember that the number of killer bugs don't or the number of people who are caught littering didn't decrease. In fact, it increases. But there may be other reasons why it didn't work that effectively. No doubt, it make people, certain people, be ashamed, but it can be counterproductive. You may
Mm.
even think that, oh, I have this group, that have gone through this so-called label as a CWO, the
It becomes
CWO
a club.
brothers brotherhood, become a club. Can be counterproductive. So again, the children can also think like that, right? Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and a badge of honor, I got beaten this morning, and I'm a strong man, strong boy, or a strong person.
How many times did your father cane you today? Oh, 3 times. Ah, that's nothing. I got 5.
See? And boys are probably the one who say these things. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other alternative to punishment is to state your expectations. And I think a lot of parents have done this. They tried it and they said it doesn't work. I remind my children again and again and again. Um, well, you just got to keep stating it, I guess. Yeah, right. To make sure to show that you mean it. And I think one of the things I tell parents is, you cannot have too many rules. Okay. So one of the questions I ask parents in the workshop: how many rules do you have for your family? And I give them 5 seconds to answer. Give me a number. Just give me a number. All right. And in 5 seconds, you must give me a number. And 90% of them cannot give me a number. So after I finish counting 5, I say
They were
to
still
them,
counting. They were still
they're still
counting the
counting.
numbers.
Yes, yes, possibly. Or they just say,
Yeah.
I do not know. And the fact that they cannot give me a number by the count of 5, I say I can safely conclude that you have too many rules. And they all agree, yeah, too many. I don't even remember what they are. Okay. So I think that's one aspect of it. So if you have an expectation, keep stating it. Keep stating it in a positive, meaning, um, don't say things like, don't run, don't shout. Say the opposite of it, what to do rather than what not to do. I think that's always something that is missing. You tell the child what not to do, but if you can't replace it, if you're not helping them to replace it, that bad behavior or bad habit with a new behavior or new habit, then nothing works, right? So instead of telling them don't shout, all right, you can give them proper instruction about when you're in the house or when you're indoors. Use the indoor voice, for example. All right, if you're speaking to one person, you don't have to shout as if you are commanding a parade.
Yeah, and I think as parents, we also fall into this habit of punishing for the sake of punishing. I mean, example. I mean, let's say a child do something like dirty the room, with writing on the wall, or and so on and so forth. I'm trying to be creative, right? Child being
Mm.
children. Okay, but we don't like it. We have to clean it. And straight away you say, oh, because of that, tomorrow you cannot go out with your friend. It got nothing to do with the whole action, and the whole action that was done. All right. What I think we should do is let them make amends, or relate to that particular action. For example, okay, now that you have dirty, no, it's time for you to clean it up, because this is your room. You want it to be clean, and of course, you don't want people to look at you as a untidy person. All right, and let them go through that corrective action, which is a positive thing, that they have to correct what they did, but not to give a punishment that is not related at all, and they don't see the education or the learning behind it, right? So I think that is also something that parents need to take note of. Again, punishing for the sake of punishing, and not using that moment to discipline the child, when you are actually uh, educating the child. The moment of learning,
That's
the learning moment, they call it. Yeah.
that's true, and that's one of the skills that is very fundamental for adulthood, and that is to be able to make decisions by weighing the pros and cons, and thinking ahead, and pre or anticipating, or being able to predict what are the consequences. If I do this, what could happen? All right, okay, so this could happen. If I do it and not do something else, what would happen? And then through that, we make a choice, right, by weighing the pros and cons. So yes, when you teach children that every behavior has a consequence, all right, some are better, some are not so good. This is a way we help our children understand, and develop this skill of being able to make choices, all right, being able to think ahead, right, and then after that make a decision, and hopefully make the right one, so that you get the right consequences, the good consequences, and the consequences that you can accept. Otherwise, yeah, you have to bear responsibility and accept the consequences.
Right. So sometimes the problem becomes so persistent, right? I mean, it may not work to certain children. What do we do? Okay, so the book shares this, all right, and the book's like, I like what I like about this book is, you be in the position of the child. Okay, how would you react? How you would react? Okay, first, for example, you get punished. If you get a punishment, right? What do you do? Usually, we are very defensive. Okay,
Mm,
you're punished because you're given punishment, and because it's really from the angle of fear, right? You want to instill fear, and hoping from that angle of fear, you're able to change the behavior. Okay, so but the focus of the child is not on the behavior anymore, is on defending themselves on what I think is right, and there's no end to that argument. Okay, you're not supposed to be late, coming home late, for example. They can always give million excuses. All right, the bus is late,
mm,
the driver was driving very slowly, and whatever, the weather, and so on and so forth. But if you focus on, why are you late, and do you know that we were supposed to have dinner together, and we all waited for you, and how would you feel if you had been waiting for, in hunger for other people? You also
mm.
probably, would feel the same, right? So again, being in the state, or let them to imagine, to be in the state of a person who are given that action, which is unfavorable. Hey listeners, Parks and I are very excited to tell you about something new that's happening. We have just started a book club and would like you to join us. There are vast amounts of knowledge and wisdom in books that are readily accessible to everyone. Reading is also a way to learn from experts in various fields. Not a reader? No problem. Follow our podcast and listen to the episode where Parks and I discuss and summarize a book or a portion of a book. We will use that as the starting point for our book club discussion. We will meet on the first Wednesday of every month. go to our Instagram and Facebook pages to find out how to join. We'll see you there. And now, back to the podcast. Second is they were talking about if let's say you tell a child something that they do wrong, but you don't focus on the behavior, you focus on them as a person. Okay, that you, for example, you always come late. You are a late comer. Gone case. Every time you are late.
Slow
Okay.
coach.
Ah, all right, no discipline, and so on and so forth. Even worse, you're like your mother, you're like your father. Even worse. Involve other third
Yeah,
party.
killing two birds with one stone.
Want to kill yourself. That's another one. You don't focus on the behavior. You don't mention the behavior. So it's about picking up that behavior. All right. And from that behavior, uh, explain the consequence of that behavior. Okay. And then don't talk about being punitive, but being assertive. That means say that that behavior is not favorable, and it won't be helpful for not only you but for people around you. All right, who feel that negative about you. So let them feel a bit of guilt, but not feel like they're being punished. Okay.
Mm,
Because again, it may be true that they really forget, or they slip up, and all these things about making mistakes, slip up, forget, is something that we need to understand that all of us humans do. Okay, and even our
mm,
children, right? And the more they do doesn't mean that the weaker and the worse they are, but it's taking that moment of, again, the learning moments. How we can educate them and make them understand how to improve their behavior.
mm. That's right. That's right. So this is very important chapter, and I think what parents need to do is basically to open up their minds. And I guess the problem is because of the way we were raised, how our parents raised us, and their method of discipline. Again, it's equal to punishment, and we kind of swallowed it. All right, it's etched into our brains, and we find it very difficult to move away from that and think differently. And so that's where we need to begin. We need to understand that discipline is not punishment. Punishment is punishment. Okay. You look at the justice system, the criminal courts. Anyone who breaks the rule, and a certain kind of crime, you get thrown into prison, for period of time. But when the people come out, are they rehabilitated? Hardly. Yes, they feel sorry for what they've done, most of them. Okay, but have you helped them change the habit? Have you dealt with the root cause of that action? You have not. You see, so that's one of the shortfalls of that form of reformative methods. It's not effective. Okay, and we spend so much money on that, but it's not really producing that kind of outcome. And I've met fathers who are very, I think they love the military life, the army life, and they treat their homes like an army camp, and they command their children, and make, when every slightest infringement of any rule, uh, punishment is meted out. Okay. And the fathers excuse it, rationalize it by saying, oh, I'm toughening him up, I'm preparing him for the real world, and things like that. And I think what they miss is that they miss the fact that children need a childhood. Children need to feel, loved and attached, and protected. Okay, rather than to, in that sense, suffer all these kinds of hardship. I think for them to learn that actions have consequences, that's important. Okay, but just to punish them because they have broken one of the rules or your rules, then that becomes excessive.
Yeah, I remember this phrase, tough love. Some of
Ah,
us feel that, no, I'm punishing my kid because this is tough love. I love him, I love her, but she has to learn her lesson. All right, and the only way is, to give him that punishment. No, again,
mhm,
you have a choice, right? You have a choice. You. I mean, nobody like to be punished. Nobody like to uh, to so called get the end of the stick, talking about just physical punishment, but to be taken privilege taken away, to suffer lah, basically. Nobody likes that. And do you love the person who make you suffer? I do not know. I don't.
Yeah,
So does punishment work? I think
that's right.
research has shown, in even this book, they bring up very old research findings, that it not only doesn't work, it promotes the opposite behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it also talks about education being a process, right? It's an internal process, while punishment is an external process. Okay,
That's
and
right.
for a person to get educated or for to learn from you, as a parent or as a teacher, there must be that level of uh, mutual trust and mutual respect. That then I listen to you. Otherwise, I won't listen to you. In fact, I will
Mm,
think opposite of you. You know, and
mm,
even it talks about punishment can cancel. Like remove the guilt lah. I've been punished, right? Now is we are on square one, zero zero.
mm,
So I can do do it again.
that's
Right?
right.
So
That's right.
there's no end to it, right? There's no end to it. How do you keep count number of wrong things that a person does and cancel off? Get cancel off.
Mm,
Yeah, and that's not the transformative way of learning.
yeah.
And we want to teach our children, especially.
And the other thing is, prevention is always better than intervention or cure.
Yeah.
uh, so one of the things the authors of this book says, if you are planning to go somewhere, let's say, they use the example of going to the supermarket or to the mall, and you know that your children or your child in the past, all right, has this pattern or has a tendency to behave a certain way. Maybe they get too excited and they start running around, or they start shouting, talking in a loud voice and all that. And so prevention is better than cure. So you kind of rehearse, you prepare them for it before you leave for the supermarket, or the night before. You talk about it with your kids, it says, tomorrow we are going to this place. And, in the past, this is what you tend to do. Okay. So because tomorrow we are going, I would like you to remember to do this instead. All right. So that you do not give in to the kind of tendencies or temptations and start getting too excited and behaving like this. Okay, so that is something I think is good advice, right? So that the children have this mental image, or are mentally prepared, so that when they actually get to the mall or wherever you're going, they're reminded, they are already rehearsed it in their minds, that what is the acceptable and good behavior. And slowly practicing it, rather than going there without any preparation. And then well, what always happen again. And then all you can do is now either try to restrain your child or
Yeah.
say, if you don't behave, we are going home right now. And everybody
Yeah.
loses.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've seen supermarkets lah and children. I don't know why children's supermarket is a disaster formula. I mean,
Too
they
many
really want to
temptations.
touch everything. They want to go everywhere. They run. And parents react differently. Like I've seen parents who are cool. Like, this parent doesn't care at all. The people look at them in a different way. Then another parent, wow, totally scold the child in front of everyone. So these are the situation that we are. I mean, we are caught in, right? And you're right, Parkson. We need to state our expectations, and the child will know what is the expected behavior in certain places. No, it's not only supermarket, right? So, for example, my children, they know that, for example, if you go to someone's house, you don't behave as if it's your own house. Although they say, "Oh, treat as if it's your own house." No, they don't mean it.
Mm. Yeah,
You
make
don't climb
yourselves at
on
home.
sofa. You don't jump on the bed. Don't make yourself at home, literally. And you state the expectation, and they behave accordingly, right? And I think that's important for them to teach them, that of course what you at home also you make sure that the same values are being promoted. Doesn't mean that
Mm.
no, at others' house, other people's house, you can behave very well. At our own house, you don't. That is also something that we don't want to promote, right? Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's a very packed chapter of great advice and practical examples. And I hope everybody gets to read it, because yes, it will improve your parenting, and you will have a better time with your kids. That's for sure. We
Yeah.
need to learn, unlearn, and then relearn.
Yeah, even at this age, I'm still learning. More importantly, I think the examples given, as you said, the real examples given in the book are very interesting, right? And it is also sometimes they describe, it works for this person, doesn't work for another person. So not all of these tips or approaches works for everyone or works at all occasion. I think that's where parenting is itself a difficult but at the same time interesting role for us.
Oh,
There's
you said it,
no
man.
one way to parent, but we all have different children, and it's a matter of knowing this, having this toolbox, with all these tools in our toolbox, and be able to use it as and when we need to, and having the wisdom to apply it at the right time and the right place. Yeah. So again, that's it for our discussion on this chapter of the book on punishment, and do join us for a book club. All right, which will happen as mentioned on the first Wednesday of every month, and we will give you the link to apply to register for the book club, and then we will communicate with you and to give further information on how to join online the book club. Right. So Parksen, anything else?
Yes. Nope, nothing else.
All right. So
Well,
thank
see
you
you
very
next
much,
time.
everyone. Yeah, see you again. Bye bye.
Well, you've been listening to the WADT podcast. Thank you for joining us. If you have enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us so that you will not miss any future episodes. Also, do let fellow dads know about this podcast. If you would like to react to what you have heard today, just head to one of our social media platforms. We are on Instagram and Facebook. Or you can email us at wearedads2@gmail.com. Also, do let us know what you would like us to discuss in the future podcast episodes. Till the next time, this is Hafiz and Parcsen signing off.